Welcome to Rooster Radio, a broadcast dedicated to supporting and promoting local artists in the Gaston County and surrounding areas.
Are you guys married?
He's married. I'm engaged.
Oh, right on.
cool.
Right on. How long you been married?
A little over a year.
Oh, so still fresh
Still
and
fresh. Yeah.
new? Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
Thank you.
Either of you got any kids?
No kids. I got 3 cats.
Nice.
Those are kids.
Yeah. I got 2 cats. Yeah. So we got collectively 5 cats. Yeah.
Nice.
The band collectively with the other guys, what is it?
It's
8. Collectively 8 cats. We're an 8-cat band.
And no songs about cats.
No, but we do everything for the cats. You know, that's we always
You gotta
say.
give
You
them
know,
their best life.
I wake up and work hard to create a better life for my cats. So. We actually say that. That's not even a joke. Yeah.
we like our cats a lot.
Yeah.
We got 2, and we had 2 dogs. We lost one of our dogs a few weeks ago, so that's been a sad time for us. But our cats, we got a boy cat and a girl cat. The girl cat's all black, and the boy cat's all white, except he's got a little bit of like tip on his ears and his tail, a little bit of fiery tip. He's a Siamese, and I swear when we got him, my wife and I both thought that he might be like a little slow, like he might have Down syndrome. And because like his back legs don't work, like he can jump up on the bed, but it took him several weeks to like figure that out. Like we watched him like jump and just smack the side of the bed several times, and that's where we started. Like maybe he's a little slow or something, but he seems to be catching on now. I think he just had a slow start, but like he's super sweet. And Daisy, our black cat, she's a year older than he is, and so like there's the whole he came in new to the house. There's the struggle for power. And it's fun. It's fun. They play fun now, but sometimes they'll get to playing and like you'll hear a racket and you're like, how are these 2 little cats making this much noise? Yeah. But no, it's fun. Cats are fun.
Black cats are the best too.
Yeah.
You've got a void. That's what we call them, voids. I've got 2 voids.
Oh.
Nice.
Yeah,
I've only ever had black cats,
it's the only way to do it.
and because for me they're the least to get adopted, the last ones, and I always go for them first.
I mean, we love Daisy. She's our black cat. She's a bitch. Like she's a real bitch. Like, she can be
She's a
mean
sweetheart.
as fuck. But if you pick her up, if she don't want you to, you ain't picking her up. Like she can be real mean. But like since we brought in Ramsey's the boy cat, she's calmed down a lot. Like she's getting all that aggression out playing with him.
She's beating the crap out of him.
Yeah. But all right, let's introduce you guys. We got Brother Oliver in the house. Look at that camera right there. Introduce yourself to the audience and tell them what you do.
Yeah, my name's Andrew,
My name is Steven.
and we are the band Brother Oliver. We've got George Sweet in the band as well. He's not with us today, and we've got Ryan M, Dr. Love Beats. He's on the drums in the band. But me and Steven are the founding members of the band, the brothers in the band, hence the name
Yeah.
Brother Oliver. And we've been doing this for quite some time, and we haven't killed each other yet, so we're going to keep doing it.
How far apart are you, age-wise?
He's got 2 years on me.
He's got 2 years on you? Okay, so you're the baby. Do you have other brothers or sisters?
We've got one older sister.
One older sister? Is she into music at all?
She is, actually. She's like phenomenal piano player.
Right on. You ever like brought her on for a set to play a song or two with you?
You know, we never have. You know, some of it's just geography. You know, she's 4 years older than me, and so she was already like graduated from college.
Gotcha.
She lives in Wisconsin, and so we've never, we've played a little bit like in the house together, but we've never been like close by where we collaborate or things like that. But
Give it
she's like
time.
crazy on the piano. She's classically trained. She's she does a lot of like church music stuff, but
Yeah.
she'll just shred that thing.
So you guys all grew up in that realm, the church realm, growing up singing and playing in church.
Yeah, so
What-
our dad's a pastor.
Oh,
And so,
okay,
yeah, we
okay.
grew up very in like a very religious,
Okay,
conservative.
the name makes a
environment.
lot more sense now.
No, so yeah. So my dad, obviously his last name is Oliver.
Yeah.
And in that world, a lot of times, they'll refer to each other like,
Yeah, it's
brother
brother-
Michael,
yeah,
or,
yeah.
and brother David or brother whatever. And so a lot of people would call my dad, brother Oliver, and we kind of yanked that term a little bit. So it has
Nice.
like a double meaning. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of reminds me of like the Kings of Leon. Like, they kind of use like their dad as a reference point for their name of their band. I think that's super cool. Now, are y'all from Wisconsin?
So we're from Michigan.
Michigan,
We're from
okay.
Michigan. We grew up in Michigan, and then about 2011, 2012 is when I moved to South Carolina.
Was
And
that
I-
for work or?
So I went to school down here, and then when
Okay.
I graduated, I just stayed down here.
Gotcha.
And then I convinced him to move down. And so we've lived here for over 10 years now, so this is home for us. But yeah, we definitely grew up in Michigan. We grew up in Greenville, Michigan, and we now live in Greenville, South Carolina.
That's
Yeah,
wild.
everyone
That's funny.
loses their mind over that. Every time we do like an interview in the press, they're like, "No, we're putting that in print." I'm like, "Go for it."
I mean, it's a cool fact. That is, I mean, it is a cool fact. Would you go to Clemson?
I went to Bob Jones University.
Okay, Bob Jones. Right on. Now, what about you, Sid? Like, when he asked you to move down here, what went through your head? You're like, fuck no, I'm not moving down there with a bunch of
No,
rednecks.
I was into it because like we weren't really super plugged in, and we didn't have a huge social connections up there, just because we actually grew up homeschooled. So
Okay.
our circle was a little bit smaller, and so just being down here, we actually had more connections down here. And Greenville, Michigan's a pretty small town, and Greenville, South Carolina, to me at the time was like a big city.
Oh yeah,
you know, so-
it has a big city feel, but it's still kind of small.
Yeah, and just so like doing the music thing, we had only been doing it for a few years, and Andrew was playing some solo shows and stuff, and I would come down and visit for a week or two at a time, and we'd try to get a show in every time I'd be down, and I just had so much fun that I'm like, yeah, like I'm moving down for sure. So
Now, what's the closest metro to Greenville, Michigan? Like
Grand Rapids?
Grand Rapids. Okay.
Yeah, that's about-
So before, I mean, you guys were pretty young, right, at the time. If you moved down for school, you're thinking you're.
Yeah, I was like
18,
21.
Yeah. All right. So, is there a music scene at all in that area? And like, were you plugged in? I mean, you said you kind of had a different circle of people, but were there places to go see and play music up there?
Yeah, in Grand Rapids, yeah, there's a great music scene there, and I'm sure there was. I know there was when I was moving away. We weren't plugged into it. We grew up in we were homeschooled. We had a good upbringing. Great, loving parents, but it was like we were kind of sheltered. Like we weren't really even allowed to listen to rock and roll, let alone be playing it professionally. They're cool with it now, but
I was just about to ask, what do your parents
Yeah.
think of the music and everything now?
yeah, I mean they don't love a lot of the nuances of it, but I think they appreciate the work we've put in. At first when you're younger, just like a lot of parents, religious or not, they want you to have a good life. They want you to have a good job. They want you to be taken care of. And so, playing rock and roll for a living is just kind of, like.
There's a
It's
little
tough.
touch of rebellion there.
Oh yeah, and I was a little punk. I wasn't the most delicate about it.
When you grow up religiously, like rock and roll is one of those things, drugs, sex, and rock and roll.
Yep.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I can relate wholeheartedly. I've talked about it openly on this podcast. I grew up in a Pentecostal home. That's hellfire and brimstone. I even mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. Like I remember as a kid, church having like these cassette tape and record burning parties. Where they throw all the Ozzy and stuff in the bonfire. And as a kid, I was just like, what is going on here? So they were pretty hardcore. But I was in middle school when I started getting exposed to outside influences, and then I just had this thirst and hunger for knowledge, so to speak. Did that happen to you guys at all? Like, did you find that once you got out of the confines of the home, did you find yourself like super curious about everything?
Little bit
Yeah.
for sure. Because we weren't allowed to. It's like you want what you can't have.
Right.
Because we weren't allowed to listen to that stuff. I remember I was like 15 or 16, and I remember turning on the radio in my house and like turning it to like the alternative rock station or whatever. and just listening to the songs. And I would just stand next to the radio with it pretty quiet because I didn't want my mom to hear whatever. Just standing there for 30, 45 minutes just listening to songs on the radio. Like, this sounds so good.
Is there a particular artist that grabs you at that age?
I mean, back then it was like Panic at the Disco, I Write Sins, Not Tragedies.
Yeah.
Like that's like
That was a huge
Fall Out
Right.
Boy, Thanks for the Memories, like
Death Cab for Cutie. at
Death
the
Cab
time.
for Cutie. That's the stuff that was in rotation at
Yeah.
that time. And I remember thinking those songs were like the most badass thing I've ever
Y'all should
heard.
come up for our next emo night. You would love it.
One
I
of
probably
the
would.
cool things about this not growing up, like being super plugged into music and what was popular at the time, is I was able to discover a lot of classics later in life. So like in my early 20s, I basically discovered all of Green Day's discography, and I was like, "This is insane,"
I love
you
it.
know.
It's a
So,
classic.
yeah, right.
It is at this point.
It is at
Like,
this
yes,
point.
At
yes,
this
we're
point,
that old.
But
at this point,
Yeah.
but like I'm listening to these things that like everyone is familiar with, and like Basket Case, I'm like, whoa, like, this is incredible. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I remember how
That's-
big that band was when they first come out.
I still love Green Day so much.
Yeah, I was resistant at the time. I was in a band when that first album come out, and we were basically doing the same thing they were doing, and it
Yeah.
was like, there's a little bit of jealousy in me. It made
feel
it
you.
hard for me to buy in. But those guys are poets, man. They've written so much great stuff over the years.
Yeah.
I don't think they have a bad album. You know
So
what
have
I'm
you
saying?
listened to anything older than that you clicked with?
So I actually took trumpet lessons.
Yeah.
And my teacher, this is like middle school, high school.
Yeah.
He used to send me home with jazz CDs, like from jazz trumpet players like Maynard Ferguson, Dizzy Gillespie, the icons of trumpet.
Yeah.
And he'd kind of send them home with me as homework. And so I'd listen to them. And I remember hearing that stuff and being like, this is awesome. And so I was listening to that before I was even listening to pop or
Yeah.
rock or anything. And so I remember hearing that stuff. And to this day, I still listen to that stuff. So like jazz was kind of actually the first gateway. And then it came the rock and the pop. And so yeah, our musical experience as far as discovering all of it was kind of backwards from a lot of people, which is kind of cool, I think.
There's nothing wrong with that, dude.
I know.
It's I am curious though. What were you listening to before that? Like, what were you exposed to?
I mean, church music, Disney,
Hillsong and-
Disney soundtracks,
Okay,
like
right on.
if it's in a Disney movie, you listen to that.
Yeah.
So.
And
That'd be
like,
fair.
were your parents the ones that got you guys learning how to play like instruments, piano? Like they kind of encouraged that early on.
Yeah, they always wanted us to learn an instrument. So like every kid had to like choose what instrument they were going to learn.
What was your choice?
My first choice was guitar, and I quit like in 6 months.
What was your first choice?
I played the saxophone.
Oh, cool.
Oh, sexy.
Yeah, I took guitar lessons for like 6 months, and I rage quit. And but to be fair, like I just wanted to like play chords and like power chords.
Rock
and-
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like 13 or 14.
Okay, yeah.
And then my teacher, he was teaching me probably the best way you could teach them, but I was like learning a very classical approach. And I'm like, this is so like tedious and
Yeah.
not fun at all. And I rage quit. And then a few months later, they're like, well, you got to choose another instrument now. So I chose trumpet. And that one actually clicked with me a little bit, and I got pretty good at trumpet.
Now it makes a lot of sense now because we play your music a lot. You're on our indie rock playlist, and I hear a lot of your stuff here now, and you're incorporating a lot of sounds, a lot of different things in your songs. So let's there's two things I want to talk about, and I want to get to the big one. But before I do that, let's talk about how you ended up writing the music that you write. It's very original. Like it doesn't really. It's hard to compare it to anybody. I'm sure you have influences that you could say, well, this has a such and such sound. But when I hear it, I'm like, this is just so different. Even on the indie rock playlist, because I mean that's what you are. You're in independent rock.
I told somebody it's almost psychedelic.
Yes,
in a way.
yeah, there is a
Yeah.
psychedelic aspect to your music. But, I mean, there's like this laid back kind of chill vibe, but then you can rock out on songs. So like, is there any intention there? Like when you sit down to write music, when you guys decided to start a band, was there any discussion at all about this is the sound I'm going for, or was it this is just what came out of you?
Well, the process and the intention obviously has been changed over the years at different phases we've had. You know, the psychedelic part I would probably attribute to the psychedelics. So that would
Right
be,
on.
you know, one of the early chapters.
Each album kind of reflects what we were doing and what our mindset was at the time. We have 3
Okay.
full lengths out at the time, and you can really, if I was transparent about it, you could.
Yeah,
draw
we
the-
joke that
you
we could
connect
say,
the
okay, this
dots.
album was
That
this
era.
substance, this album was this substance, this album was this substance.
And it's like pretty on point, to be honest. But
But yeah, so you know, we actually started our very first band before we moved down was a folk band, and it was
Okay.
very like straightforward, clean cut folk. And then we did that for a few months. We did an EP, and I think we just wanted to do something a little more edgy, lean a little more into the rock angle, just because that's what we liked. And you know, our approach has always been there's no rules. Like we don't try and create a sound. We don't try and like replicate anything. It's just what sounds cool to us
Yeah.
and what sound like if I'm writing a song, just a chord progression that sounds cool to me, and then we go in and he writes a part that sounds cool to him. You know, George on the bass, right? He's a phenom on the
Unbelievable.
bass.
Yeah.
He'll write his own parts. You know, everybody kind of contributes their own, and we let the song kind of make itself, no matter how weird or whatever. You know, so it was never like we're gonna try and fit into this box, or we're gonna try and sound like this, or we're gonna try and make a quote unquote hit.
Who's the main lyric writer?
That'd be me. Yeah. So yeah, we never put rules on ourselves, and we just like to explore and try new things, and just whatever kind of came out of that, we were fine with. And you know, as we got better as a band, and as our production capabilities got better, I think the sound has over the years, like now our sound is a little cleaner, probably a little more like radio friendly from like a production standpoint, which I think is good. You know, it's good for us as a band. But we still kind of, we like to make things that doesn't sound like everything else.
Yeah, well, you're doing it. I mean, you're doing it well. It's just really high quality stuff. So the other thing that I wanted to ask about, how to break a world record. For those who don't know, Brother Oliver is the subject of a documentary that you can find on Prime Video called "How to Break a World Record." Start from the beginning. How did this even come about?
it actually came about because Andrew and then Dan Johnson, he's kind of like our media guy. He shoots almost everything video you see of us. We were going to make like a funny YouTube video, 3 or 4 minutes long, where I pretended to break a world record, and then at the very last minute I fail in like a really stupid way. And we were kind of like, they had a script written, we were getting into it, and for whatever reason I was just like, no, like I think I can actually do this.
Okay, so
And-
you were like, this was a dumb idea that turned into like, no, wait a
challenge.
minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
'cause-
going to be a comedy sketch,
Yeah.
And when what happened was we were researching the rules because we're writing our script
Oh,
for the
yeah.
comedy sketch. And so when we started seeing the rules, he's like, no, wait a second, hold on. I don't want to fake this. I want to do it for real.
Yeah. And so I was like, I got this in the bag, like this will be easy. For sure it'll be easy. And so they were just kind of like, well, if you're going to actually do it, we're going to make a movie about it, try to capitalize on it. And that's what we did. So it was a wild ride. And we're still on the ride for a bit, but it was crazy.
Yeah, the thought process was if he's, there was a lot of layers to, one, if he can actually break this world record, that's pretty cool in and of itself. Kind of a cool thing to be like a Mandolin Guinness World Record holder. But then we're like, let's also make the movie, make it entertaining, and it will kind of be our safety net so that if he fails, because it's going to be a lot of work, a little bit of money to try and pull this off. If he fails, we can still have an entertaining movie, even if he fails, and create, so either way, either he fails and we still have a funny movie, or he actually pulls it off and we have a good movie. So it was kind of like the safety net for ourselves, and then he ended up obviously pulling it off, and then the movie, turned out pretty decent, and so we were We were stoked.
Do you know who held it before?
Yeah, a guy named
All too well.
I don't know how to say his last name, but a guy named Kuntal from Assam, India.
Okay.
He held it for 5 years before I broke it, and him and I have been in communication from time to time. We have an interesting
His arch nemesis.
We have an interesting relationship.
Yeah?
What was his time?
His time
I
was,
think it was 26:42.
yeah, 26 hours and 42
Kind of
minutes.
blew that out of the water.
Yeah, I wanted to do more, but I'll be honest, it was miserable beyond belief, like painful, and like by the end of the attempt, I was literally hallucinating. So like, I was like, I passed his record. I'm done. You know, I tapped. So he'll actually be attempting it again. He attempted it last year and failed. Tried to get it back. And
Well, first, let's lay the groundwork
'cause I
here.
was like, what is it?
What are
Because
the
in case
rules?
somebody
Because like we've had Tim Schafer on, who's on a miss. He's currently on a quest to break the world record for most concerts attended in a 1 year span.
nice.
And
That's
it
awesome.
looks like he's going to break the record. We're going to have him back after he does. And he's been documenting it. We've all been following him on social media. And
I got to sign one of his documents. So.
yeah, and that was part of
That's
it. Was like
legit.
all the documentation. You have to have a certain amount of footage from each band on the bill,
Witnesses and
witnesses to
everything.
Yup.
sign off. There's all these like barriers where they don't. It's not easy.
Right.
Like you can't just go do it. You have to have
You have to prove it, yeah.
everything in place before you even start to prove that you broke this record. So when you start researching it, what were the challenges to get to the point where you could even start to break the record?
Well, yeah, I mean, you had to apply for it 1st. Then they send you the rules, and it was like a laundry list. Like you're saying, we had to have 2 witnesses every 4 hours. We had to have all these documents, like a logbook, like making notes of everything that happened. We had to have, there's all these stipulations, but the thing that was actually relieving was the fact that he saw that he could get 5 minutes every hour.
5 minutes every 60 hours of playtime. I
60
could take
minutes.
5 minutes every 60 minutes of playtime. I could take a break, which once again led into my overconfidence because I was like, 5 minutes is such a long time. But when you take into account coming off stage, going on stage, it's about 4 minutes, and then it's a whirlwind. You know, that was the shortest 5 minutes of my life every time. But that was one of the rules.
Was like, where were you doing this at? What was the venue?
So it had to be a public location or a
Okay.
public venue, and David Stone, who is the owner of Swanson's Warehouse in Greenville, South Carolina, was nice enough to allow us to kind of take over his place for about 48 hours. So we did
Okay.
it at Swanson's Warehouse in Greenville.
Okay, so you go through all the trouble to get all of the ducks in a row, your witnesses and stuff. You got the place. You go in. What time did you start playing? What time of day was it?
10 a.m.
So at 10 a.m. you get started. Now, here's the big question. Did you line up all the material you were going to play? Or were you, like, how much of it were you winging?
So I had to play, the songs all had to be at least 2 minutes long. And there were a few ambiguities within the rules, one of which was no soloing, and the other was they had to be recognizable songs played to a recognizable standard. So right there, I'm like, well, I'm basically just going to play mainstream radio hits over the years because I want to make sure they deem these songs recognizable.
Yeah, you can't just sit down and just
Yeah, just hit one note.
noodle
over and over
around.
again. Right.
Yeah, so I couldn't repeat songs in a 4-hour period. So basically, I
Okay.
put together a 4-hour set list, and I repeated that set list every 4 hours, just
Okay.
because I thought it would be easier, you know, just to be more familiar with the songs instead of having like 1,000 songs, just having like I don't remember the number, but like 60 or 70 songs. So-
Did you use any of your own songs?
So
Or were they all
I
like-
didn't during the attempt, and mostly due to I didn't know if they would consider those recognizable. You know, I didn't
Gotcha.
know what their standard
I
was.
couldn't imagine like be doing it and you're on your like 30 something hour and all of a sudden like you're like, yeah, I did it, and then you get an email saying like, no.
Yeah, that was the
They're like,
fear.
your band's not popular enough,
Yeah.
bro.
Yeah, but they did actually end up counting because after I had broken the record, we thought it was a great idea that after I broke the record, Brother Oliver would play a short set just to kind
Like
of
a
like
full band
celebrate
set.
and for the crowd that was in attendance, which
Yeah.
you know is crazy in hindsight. But we did end up playing probably a 20 or 30 minute set after the time was broken, and that time did count towards the record. So apparently,
dude, that's
Nice.
cool.
Yeah.
apparently our songs are recognizable enough for Guinness World Record.
That's got to be a great feeling. Now,
Yeah.
what did your fingers look like after all that?
Oh, it was rough, man. They looked pretty terrible, but they felt probably worse than they looked. They were basically like gelatinous is how I kind of describe it.
Ew.
It was messed up. It kind of looked like I soaked them in water and then you rubbed them on sandpaper. You know, like it was.
What would have
gnarly.
happened if you messed up a song?
I mean,
Like hit a bad note or something.
I
Yeah,
think if
like
I hit a bad note or like messed up some chords, it'd be fine. But
Because
as
like
long as I
towards the
didn't
end when
stop,
your fingers are all like you're probably slipping up a bit.
it
or
was
something.
rough at times. Like there were at one point it was so bad that like my fingers were so soft it like wasn't holding the strings down enough, and so like I had to basically like it felt like I was playing on the bone kind of.
Yeah.
It was pretty painful. Luckily the pain kind of plateaued after like 12, 13, 14 hours.
Yeah, you get into that, the adrenaline takes over.
Yeah. And just like the fact that we were doing a movie and the fact that every person I knew on earth knew that I was doing this. And like,
pressure.
there's there's nothing
pressure.
to be ashamed of if you don't break a world record.
No, I respect the hell out
But
of
in
that
the
talent.
moment, I'm like, if I break this, like, it's going to be the most, or if I don't break this, it's going to be the most embarrassing thing, you
Yeah.
know? So,
It's almost like the shame was the motivation
Yeah.
to keep going.
yeah, for sure. It helped.
Potential shame.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we have people like coming and getting hotels and stuff to like be there the next afternoon when he breaks it. And so it's like, dude, you gotta at least make it. Like you got people buying hotels and stuff, and we don't be bitching
we have
out on
people
me
coming
now,
in
dude.
being
Like-
witnesses. Like we have people coming and being witnesses at like 3 and 4 in the morning. You know, it's just there was a lot involved. You know, it really was not a individual feat. You know, so
Was there a
I
pretty
couldn't
good
let him
crowd
down.
the whole time, or
There was a big crowd at the end when he broke it.
Yeah.
You know, obviously in like the middle of the night it was pretty sparse.
yeah, I bet.
But there was people in and out.
We kind of tried to keep it sparse though, because we wanted to control the scene, if you will.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And it was kind of embarrassing because like when I play on stage, like I'm trying to play like as well as I can, play our songs, you know, try to be impressive. But I'm up there playing simple chords to backing tracks, playing terrible, looking terrible, and I'm just like, I don't want people to see this. You know, I don't want people
A
looking
little
at
bit that
me.
vanity kicked in. I don't want to be seen like this.
Yeah.
Did you think at all about like what you were going to wear that day, stuff like that? Like, did any thought go into that?
The only stipulation was to dress comfortably, and in hindsight, I'm like, man, I should have dressed way cooler than I did. But I just wore a hoodie and some sweatpants.
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah, I'd prefer comfort if I'm going to be. Yeah, dude. What? Congratulations.
Right.
Thank
First
you.
and foremost,
Thank you.
congratulations. I
Appreciate
think
it.
it's wonderful. I think it says a lot about a person when you're willing to buckle down and commit to something like that. You know, whether it's breaking a world record or just starting a band. You know, to that the level of commitment it takes. Like you have my respect. You know what I'm saying? Like that's incredible that
Thank
you were
you.
willing to do that. I am super curious about this guy whose record you broke though. You said you're still in communication. Like, you know, was he upset? Was he mad, or did he get motivated because you said he tried again but hasn't broke it yet? Like,
We could do an entire podcast. No, but I mean, I don't know this, but it seems that in India, Guinness World Records are like super culturally relevant, and it
Like
seems-
even more so than like here.
like
So-
much more so, and it almost seems like a sense of like pride, like almost like.
Like a badge of honor.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it just seems to have like a lot more significance
Carries more
there.
weight.
Yeah,
So you ruined this guy's life.
it's kind
I
of.
wasn't going to say that. But
stole his identity.
No, legitimately, like this is like one of his like major like things in his life. Like his mission in life is to get this record back, and so I do think that he will get it, which is cool. You know, like
will you be happy for him, or are you going to start preparing for another movie?
I'm not going to be attempting it again unless some movie studio offers me a fat check, then I will.
Yeah, there you
But
You're gonna let him keep it and keep his pride.
yeah, because the way I look at it, like at the time, because he actually attempted it about a month after I broke the record,
He just
and
jumped right in. He's like, fuck this.
yeah,
That was a big storyline
Yeah,
in the movie.
if
is
you
that
watched him-
he was gonna do it very shortly after. It was almost like a neck and neck,
Like a
kind of
race to it.
race in the finish line type deal.
And so at the time, I thought that I was only going to hold the record for a couple weeks at most.
Yeah.
And so it's over 2 years later. I still have it. I feel like I've gotten much more than I ever expected out of it. And so, like, I'm totally fine with someone coming along and breaking it. That being said, it would be hilarious
You want him
if
to
he
fail.
failed again. It would
To
be
be fair,
because
I will say Kuntao has always been kind He's never like thrown any real shade.
He's a loose cannon, though.
Friendly competition. Kind of
Yeah. I wouldn't want to just be trashing him. He has
Yeah.
been. He's been nice and he's been
I
kind.
think
And
that's so interesting culturally. They take that as such a.
We should.
I mean,
Well,
yeah.
we should. Like they're right.
Well,
They're
what-
the ones that are doing it right.
What I was going to say is the guy that Tim's going up against, who's trying to beat from last year, is an Indian guy.
Oh, is it?
Yes, I remember.
They
his
dominate.
name. Yeah.
They dominate the records.
Yeah. I mean, look, good. Look, how can you not respect an appreciation for excellence? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like
And
that's
that's
what you're.
dedication.
Yeah, that's what you're
Yeah.
really. That's what we're celebrating here. Is excellence, professionalism, like
Right.
all of the things that can make a person successful. I mean, that's no
You
matter
have
how
to do it in a concentrated amount of time.
Yeah, no matter how even like silly world records, like hot dog eating contests and shit like that. There's still a level of commitment that takes. Now there's an argument to be made that that's the wrong kind of commitment, but it's still an incredible feat. You know what I'm saying? Like anybody that dedicates himself to something
Trying
like
to be
that.
the best in the world at
Yeah.
anything.
Right.
Yeah, that's-
that type
that's
of pride you
fantastic.
take in yourself. That speaks a lot for you too.
So if he breaks this, could you pick up like a ukulele?
I actually think the ukulele one would be easier because like it's a lot easier on your fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah, the strings aren't quite as.
Yeah, they're
Must
be
nylon and
yeah.
they're not as there's less tension on them.
Yeah.
I actually did look at that, and I think it is an obtainable record, but I don't
You can
know.
let him keep his pride.
What's the world record for
Somebody else.
trumpet playing?
I don't even know off the top of my head.
Some of the records are wild. Like
Yeah.
the guitar one is like 100+ hours, which I don't understand how it's
Yeah,
physically
the guitar
possible.
one was
God.
120
Yeah.
hours or something.
Fucking-
Yeah.
Like more than like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, it
Which
reaches
is-
a point where it's not even worth it, you know?
Like,
Like,
that don't even
like,
sound
no.
fun at all.
yeah, like I said, like I have no interest in attempting this again, you know? No interest.
If Netflix writes the check,
Yeah. There's only
if they
one
somehow
way.
watch this,
There's
then
only
here it
one
is.
way.
One way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
he will attempt it again for a
I will.
price.
I will.
Right on.
Everything has a price.
Everything has
Yes.
a price.
You need sponsors.
Yeah. Big sponsors.
Now let me ask you this: the movie. How did you get it on Prime of all places? Like, were you approached? Like you said, you have a guy that does all your video stuff. It sounds like maybe he's got some relationships in the business. Like, how did y'all end up on Prime?
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of a story in and of itself. It took a lot of determination, honestly. So Dan Johnson, who is kind of like our creative partner, he shot and edited the movie. Him and me co-directed it together. We made this movie. We'd never made a movie before.
Right.
We'd done a lot of video work. We'd done a lot of like shorter form video, but nothing like this. But it's always been a dream of mine and a dream of his and a dream of Steven's to make a movie. And so we're like, let's make a movie and let's do it. And let's not only make a movie, let's make a good movie, and then let's get a deal. Let's get actual distribution. Let's not just throw this up on YouTube. Like,
Right.
let's release this like big. Let's make this a big deal. And so we actually didn't have any relationships in the film business. Obviously we've been in the music business. There's some parallels there, but they're two different industries. And it was just a situation where we wouldn't take no for an answer. So once we finished the movie, I just started researching and searching for people or anyone that had connections in that space. We had one guy that was willing to represent us. It didn't work out with him, so we ended the relationship there. And then we found another guy, another agent, who was willing to represent us, and that one worked out really well. And he actually got us multiple offers for the movie. We chose the best offer and signed a deal, and the rest is history. So
Right on.
It was a
Congratulations.
grind. It was a grind. It's yeah, it was.
And that's, I mean, kudos to you for making the right decisions. Like you said, you worked with an agent and then that wasn't the right fit. Like when you want something that bad and then somebody comes along offering the things that you need, and then it's really, really hard to walk away from something, when there's like the hope, the promise, the hope of success there. I don't need you to get into the details of what happened, but you were able to recognize that this wasn't the right fit, but you still kept pushing to achieve the goal. That's, man, a lot of respect for you guys.
It's actually it's kind of one of those classic tales in entertainment. The first guy, I'll tell you, he said he tried for a little bit. He's like, nobody's gonna pick this up. You're not gonna get any offers on this. You're better off just releasing it yourself. It was just one of those situations. He's like, sorry, nobody's gonna want this. Just release it yourself. And we're like, nah, dude, I know it's better than that.
Yeah.
And then we found someone else, and lo and behold, we got multiple offers.
Right on.
You know, so it's
Yeah.
like, it's one of those stories where it's like, you know, sometimes you got to believe in your product, you know?
Yeah.
And we did. We believed that we had something.
Man, man, just kudos to you, man. That's awesome. I mean, have y'all thought about doing another one, like doing a tour and like following, like just kind of documenting a tour and
Yeah,
putting something together?
Yeah, we actually have another movie. It's not as directly related to the band, but we just signed a deal for another movie that's coming out this year called Paperweight.
Okay.
And the story with that is, well, the plot line is what would happen if you took an average guy off the street and put him in the ring with a professional MMA fighter. So it's another reality documentary. And yeah, you can already kind of imagine how that would go. And so I'm the average guy that got put in the ring.
Oh, for
and
real?
Got put through the life of a UFC fighter. So we worked with a couple of UFC fighters in our city, and we shot that movie last year. And so we haven't promoted too much about that because we just signed the deal, but that's coming out later this year.
Man, I love it. You guys are staying creative. You're staying busy. This is awesome, man.
Paperweight's a great name for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is a great name for it. Yeah. Yeah, man.
But we have thought about doing a movie kind of related to like being on the road. The two
Well,
are
I remember as a teenager, so long time ago in a land far away, when I was younger, VHS cassettes, like you'd go to like the record store, the music store, and then a lot of the bands I was into would have like these little documentary VHS tapes of like, and it's just them fucking off on tour, you know,
You could
like
have
it's
just
all.
said they showed that shit on MTV instead
Yeah.
of saying buying the VHS, but okay.
Well, I wasn't allowed to watch MTV when I
I
was a
wasn't
teenager.
either, but I was smart enough to
did-
crack the block code.
Yeah. So I had to watch the VHS tapes. But I was always like, as a kid, I always thought that stuff was like super cool and
Yeah.
interesting. You get to know the
behind the
the
scenes.
behind the scenes. That's why I do this podcast. It's kind of like a way to peek behind the curtain and get to know people for who they are.
That's why I filmed some of the stuff in the green room, just so that people can see, so it's not so taboo. Like, I got to see what's back here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm pretty much an open book. You know what I'm saying? I want people to like have an emotional connection to the things
Yeah.
they do, and that's kind of what you're doing when you do stuff like that. You make a documentary about time on the road. You know, people are getting to know you a little bit more than just the music you make. You know what I mean? I'm sorry, did I miss something wrong? Oh, okay.
He wasn't giving you signals over there.
My bad, but no,
Stop
but
scratching your
no.
hand,
I hope you guys keep doing it. I do, and you're always going to have a place to play here. My hope for you is that you get too big to play this place. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No such thing. We'll just price
Yeah,
the
we
tickets
love
really high.
Awesome. Now, all right. So you've got the MMA thing coming out. Music wise, what's next for Brother Oliver?
Yeah, we're working on some more songs right now. We're always cooking something up in the studio. Right now, we're kind of taking a singles approach. For years, we would put on an album every single year, and right now we're kind of taking it one song at a time, just kind of this quality over quantity approach.
Well, not only that, it's where the industry's going too.
Yeah, there's a lot of
I'm
that.
a sucker. I love albums. I want to hear a whole body of work. You know, I want to hear what you put your last year and a half, 2 years into. I want to hear the whole thing as a whole product. But I'm old school. Like today's consumer is all about
One
the
thing at a time.
dopamine hit now, and
Right.
so the singles approach isn't a bad approach right now.
Right. And for me, we've done so many albums that when we decide to do this next album, like to me, I want it to be like almost like very like profound, like something that I'm waiting for that like specific inspiration where it's like, this is like an inevitable calling we must answer.
Yeah,
know?
you want it to say have a meaning, had to say something important.
Right, right.
No,
And
I get that.
Yeah, we're kind of laying low, trying to scheme on what that next big album will be like, but we've got plenty of songs just flowing still that we're cooking up in the lab. So
We could
we're
talk
staying
about how
active.
we could talk about how people should take things like world records more seriously. Should appreciate greatness. You know? That was the whole TikTok argument. Like a lot of people want to shut. The whole TikTok argument's going on right now. People want it shut down. because it's so much nonsense on there. Whereas, if in China, it's all educational and it's all about like, it's educational and it's about like human achievement and stuff like that. We can shit on China all day long, talk about, how shitty communism can be and all that. But that's one thing they got right. Don't you want your youth looking up to people who achieve things rather than
Not people that do stupid
yeah,
little dances.
yeah. So like I get it. Like I kind of get the argument. And I don't think the answer is shutting it down. And I think the answer is inspire people. Like move the needle to where people are appreciating human achievement more than a silly dance.
Or whatever this popular celebrity at the moment is doing.
I'm full of shit because this morning I printed out some pictures of guys that my daughter think is hot for us cake. I guess they're doing this thing where they make a cake and put pictures of.
So
yes, she knows.
I know.
So this morning she's like, "Can you print these pictures out?" I'm like, "Why?" It's for this cake. TikTok. I'm like, all right, whatever.
The hear me out cake.
That's it. Hear me out.
Cake.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like guys that traditionally don't look hot, but you think they're hot. So it's like, hear me out. This is why this.
I mean, I've seen like.
You've already lost me. I have no idea what's happening.
It's actually okay. I find it entertaining. Whatever. I do get lost in that. Okay, so yeah, I do get lost in that shit too. So
all I know is for years they've been talking about TikTok potentially getting shut down, and we've never really done super well on TikTok. So I was like, I don't really care that much.
Yeah.
But then in the last few months, we had a couple things kind of pop off a little bit. I'm like, they better not shut.
Don't
this
shut
down. This would be a travesty.
right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are some things that get super popular, and it's just like, what? That's stupid.
I like it. It puts
but
the
entertaining
hands,
at the same time.
It puts the hands back in the artist of promoting themselves and doing all.
Yeah,
this,
now that is one huge advantage to not just TikTok, but all
any
social media now is. You do have. I have to believe that social media has helped you guys out a lot with promoting this movie and stuff and your music, and it has put the power back in the hands of the creator.
You're not sitting there waiting for somebody to hear you to just give you all the money now.
Well, I mean, it's unfortunate that up until now, I'm not a big fan of putting labels on stuff or stereotyping stuff, but there's a reason why stereotypes exist, right? And one of those things is a lot of artists aren't great at business. The creative mind isn't wired the same way an administrative mind is wired.
Right.
So that's kind of there was a relationship there that could be mutually beneficial. But over time and decades, those business-minded people just kept fucking artists over and over and over again, and then it becomes an abusive relationship. And now the power's back in the hands of the artist, which is great. But the artists that are succeeding more now are the ones that have a little bit more of a business mind.
Right. It takes a lot more work on the artist's part.
And a lot of times when you see somebody rise to fame on social media, there's a team behind them too. Like very few people are just doing it themselves.
Very few organically done.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's right. It's a whole team.
Yeah,
They make it look like one person, but it's a whole team.
With that said, keep watching Rooster Radio.
Yes, because we have a whole team. There's 4 of us, but
Yeah, I realized that early on. I was like, you start digging into getting things done around. It's like, God damn, this is just too much work, and it's so much to keep up with. So, and it sounds like you guys have a solid team, and you seem insulated a little bit, which is really cool. Now, with that being said, how well do you mingle with the Greenville artist scene? Like you're playing, every so often. Do you have good relationships with the other artists in that town? Do you still work together with anybody well?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. I'd like to think we have a pretty good relationship with the artists. We're kind of unique in the sense that, especially the last couple of years, our attention's been a little split. So it's not just the music and the shows; it's also this movie and just kind of entertainment at large element. And so, our attention's a little split, and sometimes I feel a little isolated in that way because nobody's really doing what we're doing in our city when it comes to
I feel that.
Just a full entertainment suite. And, there's other people obviously doing all kinds of great stuff in the city. But yeah, I think overall it's a pretty healthy local scene. When we first moved down, we were playing with all these artists constantly. Like James Tucker, who's playing with us on the February 1st show. He's one of the
We
first
should
people.
probably promote the show at some point.
I was wondering when that was going to happen.
He's a good friend. One of the first people I met in Greenville and played with, and his career's just taken off.
He's doing
and
great.
Yeah. It's amazing seeing what's happened with him and streaming and how big his audience has grown. So we're excited to play that show with him. And we actually did a song together earlier this year,
Very
Brother
cool.
Oliver and James Tucker. So I think we might play that one live,
Hey.
potentially for the first time.
Cool.
I need to
So-
practice.
Yeah, we haven't performed it together. I don't think this will be the first time.
We've never performed it at all.
So, it's fresh out the oven. So
Right on, man. That's exciting.
Yeah.
That's exciting. It's always fun when artists get together on stage and,
Yeah, it is.
and chop it up like that. Man, I couldn't be more excited. So let's promote the show. This Saturday, February 1st. We're going to kick off February with an amazing show. We've got Brother Oliver in the house. We got James Tucker in the house. This is going to be a lot of fun. I got to thank Destiny for turning me on to you guys. Destiny,
shout out Destiny.
Shout out Destiny. She kept saying you need to get Brother Oliver in, and finally I was like, all right, let's make this happen. The first time you're here is with the Menders.
Hello, I'm the producer, Ron. Sometimes you see me, sometimes you don't. I just wanted to let you know that Michael made a fucking mistake. It wasn't the Menders that first introduced Brother Oliver. It was in fact the Pattywags. So Michael, do better. See ya.
It was a great show. We had a great turnout, and you guys impressed the hell out of me. I was like, we do a lot of different stuff here, a lot of different types of music. Not very often do we get. I mean, we get bands in here that have violins and mandolins and horns and trumpets, and it's just few and far between. But what you guys were doing was just so different, and you were doing it so well. It was such an impressive set. And I think I told you, I was like, anytime you want to come back, let me know. And that's how we're here now. So we hope you come out this Saturday and check out Brother Oliver. One thing before we wrap up, what made you? I don't want to say it wrong, but what gave you the confidence to jump in the ring with MMA fighters?
Well, I didn't think I was going to win. I'll say that. So the point of the film was to showcase that the average guy can't just do that.
Right. Okay. So you are making the point.
By getting my ass kicked, I thoroughly did my job.
Yeah. That's why it's not like back when I was young. You had dudes where you had to be careful. You go out in public with certain guys, and you knew you were going to end up in a brawl, and it's you can't do that nowadays. There's too many guys that train jiu-jitsu and other MMAs. You'll get your ass kicked by a 120-pound guy. You can't go out thumping your chest like you used to. You got
to look at their ears. If they got that cauliflower ear.
Pull out. Hang it up.
Yeah. See a guy with fucked up ears, stay away. Don't mess with that guy. But no, thank you so much for doing this, man. I'm really grateful. Like I said, I feel like we're a little too small for you guys, but I'm grateful that you're here, and I can't wait for the show. And if you haven't watched it yet, go watch How to Break a World Record on Prime Video and get pumped up for the show Saturday. Come hang out with us.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Yep.
No, thank you guys.
Thank you for
I hope
having us.
everyone comes out to the show. Brother Oliver, James Tucker, February 1st. It's
Right
going to
on.
be great.
Oh, and by the way, we're not too small for anybody.
I'm a humble guy, man. I don't think I much.
I was going to say, and on that note,
We love the
Peace and
Rooster.
love.